Hey everyone, welcome back to the Chessyard. This is Dhairya Bagga, and I'll be playing the 5 minute blitz today on leashes. So, yeah, let's get started. Got the black pieces here. We'll play c65, collapse the bishop. Okay, playing too fast because he has memorized his opening. Nice. We can exchange the knight, and that's fine. Let him capture. We'll take back with the queen. Pawn structure remains fine. So he doesn't capture. We'll give him the dark square bishop now, which he has to take. Okay, we'll move the knight on d7. We'll try to exchange the knights. Or maybe we can start pushing the pawns. He wants to take the bishop. Since that's what the opponent wants, we'll not let that happen. He is trying to break the center, so we'll try to kick away his knight. This pawn can cause a threat, but not for now because we have lots of attacking options there. Plus now if he moves his f pawn, this creates some weaknesses and the knight can hop in over there. For now, I think we should castle, we should castle, we should castle, we should wait for the castle. I'm thinking of strengthening the center for now. Now he will try to break. Yes, he does. And we get a good square for the knight, which is now coming on the deadly e3, trying to fork three pieces so he can save one at max, but two will remain pin. Pushing the g pawn would be an idea later on. Here we can take with the knight. Both the knights are connected. The pawn in the center is protected by the queen. So yeah, good, looks good for the black so far. He's attacking the queen, so he'll capture with the bishop now. Again, that doesn't change anything because still we are pinning, forking two of the pieces, three pieces actually, queen, the rook, and the bishop. Of course, we'll be taking the rook. He'll be saving the queen here. He does, and we take the rook. Now we can actually castle any side of the board. But I'll say why to castle when I can still first get my knight on a good square. The knight on e3 controls a lot of stuff. He cannot move the queen because the c pawn will be hanging. He can even the bishop is there to be taken for exchange. We are +2 in power, so we can afford to go for exchange and win it from there. He's offering queen. That looks bad on him. You should not exchange pieces when you're down. It's okay if he wants to. Knight goes on a good square. Bishop and the pawn will take something or the other. It's okay. It's pinned for now. We can castle either side of the board. Long side makes more sense, or I don't know. His pawns are anyways weak over there. King side also, but he can then push the pawn forward and create some weakness. So I'll castle on the queen side here. He saves the bishop. The idea is to push the pawn forward and then attack the king simultaneously. That's his idea, which is not going to happen. We'll just move the king immediately. I cannot take the pawn because my knight would be hanging otherwise. If he takes, then also some problems. I'll go for a knight exchange here. He does. I take back. He can push the pawn forward. Yes, he does. I can go on the a file or b file, but then his pawns will move and only kick away my rook from there. So rather, I would come back on the last rank, the 8th rank, and now I will offer him the rook exchange. He plants his bishop in between, which is completely fine. I can also make the situation worse for him by blocking up everything. He starts to move the king, and so do we. I'll strengthen the center as well by moving the c pawn now. Oh, he is trying to break. It's okay. Yes, sir. Which one? Which pawn you want to move here? It's completely fine. I can move the pawn forward, or let me just first place the rook on the empty file, which is going to break probably. I'll now push the pawn forward. So he does it rather. I take, he takes with a check. I can capture it. If he takes the rook, he's down. So he doesn't. He takes the pawn. Now I can go for the pawn here. He also takes the pawn in the process. We'll move towards his other pawn. Okay, he wants to break the pawn chain here. Can go for saving it, but again, he would be attacking with a lot more stuff. He played well despite being down the exchange. How about I take the bishop here? Let's see if I can do something from here. Losing back on time as well, so I will have to play fast. He captures my pawn on g7. I capture back his pawn on d3 here. He is okay. Let's see. I'll move away the king. So it's equal material. I capture the pawn. He gives a check. Did he resign? Yes, he does. Let's see the analysis. We are pawn up, so we just had to mate him. And let's analyze the game once. Knight f3, c6, bishop to pawn to g3, pawn d5, bishop comes to g2, bishop on f5 here. He castles. We develop the knight, followed by d3, e6. Both players playing solid initially. He develops his bishop, and we move the pawn forward. He doesn't go for the capture, but take his bishop back. Now you should not move your pieces multiple times in the opening, which he does, and computer gives the move in the favor of black, giving him a bishop exchange. Though computer was suggesting to tell up knight to c7 first, he takes. We take back with the queen. Now knight to d7. So yeah, perfect kind of an opening structure. Something to be learned. Then he moves knight to h4, and I take the bishop back. So the computer suggesting you should have gone for bishop to g4. That will also restrict his e pawn movement for the time being. But then he can probably push the pawn on h file again, and have to push my bishop again. So I didn't want that to happen. So he moves the pawn now e to e4. I had to cast, no, I had to get the rook on d8 here as per the computer, but I rather chose to kick away the knight, then trying to strengthen the center, playing solid basically, not going for an attack initially, which he is trying to do by opening the f file. And as soon as he does, as I told, that it is a very good square for the knight because his next move would be to e3, which would be very deadly for white. And that's what happened in the game. I moved knight to g4. He captures the pawn. Computer suggesting to take back with the knight, and that's what I did. He gets the knight now, so we take back with the bishop. He takes with the rook. Knight on again a perfect square. Taking the rook. All looks good. So I did miss somewhere because otherwise that would have been a comfortable win, which it was at the end, but had to think in between. So 2.8 in favor of black, so which is very nice. Here, computer suggesting to castle first, and I thought of first taking my knight to a better square and then going for castle. He gives a queen for exchange. As I said, whenever you are down on par, you should never give your queen for exchange, which he does as a mistake. So I take. He takes back with the knight. Computer suggesting go with your knight first. That's what I did. He gets the rook. Computer suggesting castle on the king side. My only threat was if he moves the pawn forward. Yes, I can move the pawn to g rather than capturing it. That was one. I think that's what computer will be suggesting. Let's check if he moves the pawn forward. Computer is saying ignore the threat basically. Just keep your rook on the empty file and then play it on from there. So this I didn't calculate. I was thinking that if I go for exchange, my center file gets opened up. My king is not much safe. So I rather chose to castle here on the queen side, which is also similar, not much of a difference in the evaluation after the move as well. Here, computer testing go to c7. I chose b8 rather. Both were safe. He moves the pawn forward. I took my knight back, which was okay. Giving knight for exchange. This is also fine. 2.7, 2.6, good enough. Giving the rook for exchange. He plants the bishop in between. Where's the miss? Where's the miss? It has to come somewhere. So we started moving pawns on the queen side. This was passive as per the game, moving the a pawn, h pawn. I should have went for a rook instead. Okay, but I'm still in control of black here. It's also is like pretty much comfortable from here. He captures. Oh, so I should have not captured it. Rather be on the c7. That's a good square. Not allowing the rook to come enter my area and also blocking the pawn chain. But I went for the capture. He captures. Computer testing. Don't give your. Okay, so this was weakness. Don't give your a pawn. That can be an empty file later on. Plus, don't give your pawn so that you can promote it to queen later. Here I made a mistake. He takes it, and then I go towards his side. He comes back, and this was not required. I should have actually gone with the rook on the b1 and then attack from here. But rather, I thought this bishop is blocking all the pawns and all, so I'll just go for the capture. After capturing it, the game is slightly in favor of white. Uh, and then this was again a bad move. No, equal move. He captures the pawn, so do I. I had to give him a check here, but I went for the pawn exchange. He captures, and the game should be a draw from here if both the players play perfectly fine, which didn't happen in the game. He moves the king forward. I capture, and this is where he loses the game by giving a check. I move the king, and the game has completely gone in the favor of black here because I can actually just pin the king and rook here, take the rook or give a mate, and after he moves the rook to a bad square, I just give him a check. This pawn is blocking the e5 as well as the g5. The rook blocks the remaining, the fourth rank here, and the third rank squares, which are the g3, f3, and e3, are protected by the king. So it's a mate in one, which he missed, and that was it. The end of the game. He saw the mate and resigned. So yeah, play solid, don't attack, and when you're down a par, never go for queen exchange. Exchanging is very bad if you're exchange down already in the game. So I hope you like the video and some lessons to be learned from it. Keep watching and sharing. Thank you so much for your time. Take care. Bye bye.